Sometimes what seems like a major inconvenience can lead to a new adventure.
I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. It's been an excellent time enjoying Switzerland and a couple of days at the Europa Park Resort with a group of great friends from Buzz Bars, and the plan was to head home immediately after that. Unfortunately though, circumstances would dictate finding a different way to get home, which led to catching a bus that gave a familiar but different experience, a chance to enjoy a great European Christmas tradition, and a chance to fly long haul with a familiar airline on a type of aircraft I had yet to before. Well, the standby god struck again, due to a lack of seat availability for the flight I was planning to take, just as it happened when I tried to get to Kansas City a couple years earlier, or when trying to get back to the States from Munich earlier in the summer. Things are looking pretty solid all the way up to our arrival into Zurich and visiting Lucerne, then getting to the Europa Park Resort. But as we were enjoying our time at the park, the number of seats available dropped like a lead balloon, going from around 30 open seats down to 7, and I went from second in line all the way to 10th. It only got worse as the trip continued, and what made things more complicated was that Delta only offered one flight out of Zurich at the time through New York JFK, and the following days were looking pretty slim as well. I also didn't have a ton of breathing room because I needed to get back home for my classes, so this became a case of needing to look into a plan C, D, E, or maybe even a plan F. One possibility was to look into other cities, especially Amsterdam or Paris, as Delta flies to multiple cities direct from those locations, including back home to Seattle. The problem though was that getting a flight from those cities would have been impossible for the same day, as I needed to get the van back to Zurich, and there were about 8 folks who would be riding with me to catch their flights. And looking into the days that followed, the flight loads in the other cities weren't looking too grand either. But as I kept looking into other options, a previous decision I made about this trip might have helped save the day. You may recall that I had a chance to book a Polaris seat out of Chicago, but decided to stick with flying through Washington Dulles so I could join the crew on that flight. Little did I realize how clutch an option this would be, because not only did it allow for a more memorable flight over, but the spare miles would allow me to get home with only a single day delay. Thanks to United's partner Lufthansa, the flight I found was out of Munich with direct service to Seattle, meaning I could also avoid connecting flights for my return home. And because the flight would be the following day, I could still get everyone who took the Gary bus back as planned, wish them all a safe flight, then catch a ride over to Munich with enough time to enjoy an evening in the city, then take off for my return to the Pacific Northwest in the morning. There's a bus terminal right out of Zurich's airport center where you can catch various local routes and several inner-city and long-haul buses, one of which is the very familiar Flixbus, which I've utilized before when Philip and I rode from Munich to Frankfurt overnight after Oktoberfest. Being that this was outside of the peak travel season for Europe, it probably helped to make the passenger load of the bus pretty light, so I was able to reserve the upper deck front row seat for that familiar view of the driver, but without the responsibility of operating the vehicle. I really enjoyed this for the chance to just watch the scenery and towns pass by. This isn't my first bus ride going from Zurich to Munich since Philip and I did so to get to Oktoberfest, but riding with a different company than last time, we were on a different route, as we had driven around Bodensee Obersee and through a small bit of Austria to get there. This time, the bus would make a stop in the town of Konstanz, then head to the lake for a ferry ride across to the town of Meersburg. Since I live in an area served by one of the largest ferry systems in the world, I'm certainly no stranger to ferries that transport passengers and vehicles, but I really enjoyed this experience for a chance to see a different kind of ferry, as it's smaller with a more modern look than the ferries back home in Washington. Yet like the vessels I know and love, these boats also have an onboard cafe and several areas where you can enjoy the views along the way.
Sometimes what seems like a major inconvenience can lead to a new adventure.
Arriving to the other side, we found ourselves making a fairly big climb up the hill in Meersburg, which offered some great views in itself, and there were a few more towns with stops on the way to Munich. As we approached the popular Bavarian city, I had a bit of a flashback from earlier in the year, as I could see Skyline Park in the distance. And having driven this same highway back in the summer, I knew it wouldn't be long before we arrived to Munich's main bus terminal.
And with that, I have successfully made it to Munich. Now I'm going to head over to the main train station so I can go ahead and stash my stuff in a locker, and it's time to get jolly.
As I stashed my belongings in a locker at Munich's main train station, it happened to be a great time of the year to be heading to the city center.
Admittedly, it's a bit of a bummer to have driven around Strasbourg and not be able to find a place to park to join the crew and get to explore the Christmas market there. However, since I'm stuck here in Munich, they're pretty well known for their Christmas festival too, so better take advantage of it while I'm here, right?
Like many European cities, Munich hosts a large Christmas market offering various types of food and beverage.
As one does in Germany, sometimes you gotta go with a bratwurst, but this thing is huge. It's good though.
One of the most common items you'll find here is Glühwein, a hot-spiced red wine that's popular in Germany and Austria to help warm up during those cold winter months.
So I have to admit, Glühwein is something I've never had before, and this will be my first time trying it, so Prost. I'm not much of a wine drinker, but I like it.
Most of the stalls serve theirs in a specialty mug that you have to make a deposit for upon purchasing.
So, if you return it when you're finished, you get your €4 back. If you don't, you've got yourself a nice little souvenir.
And if you're worried about being able to find any to try, never fear. Munich has a ton of Glühwein stands to choose from, each with their own specialty mug. Along with food and beverage options, many of the market stalls offer a vast array of merchandise, especially a huge selection of Christmas decorations, toys, apparel, and treats that could be given as gifts for the holiday season. One of the treat stands that really stood out to me was a chocolate maker who offered the sweet treat in a huge variety of shapes that could match the interests of others, as they had chocolate shaped like tools, nuts, bolts, cars, cameras, and even musical instruments, some of which were made with such craftsmanship you might have second thoughts about eating it. Being located in the city center, the market offers visitors a chance to appreciate some of its more prominent buildings, including the Frauenkirche and the new town hall, both of which offer some incredible architecture to admire, plus the lighting really helps the new town hall to stand out. While it was a bit too late for exploring the buildings inside, the central courtyard of the new town hall had additional stalls for the market, and even a few displays such as a miniature model of the manger where Jesus was born that's been a featured part of Munich's Christmas market since 1953. As I explored the last bit of the market, I saw a food item I knew I had to enjoy because of a family connection.
My younger sister's had this tradition of making spätzle for Halloween for the past couple of years, and it's always been something to look forward to every time I go over to her house for Halloween. However, it is being served here at the Christmas market, and since I'm in Germany, that's good stuff.
And when you finish it, the bowl is edible.
Travel delays can certainly be a pain in the ass, but when you find yourself going to a place you didn't expect to and getting to experience you didn't expect to, sometimes it works out really well. And I will say, coming to see the Christmas market here in Munich, that's a pretty awesome backup plan, if I do say so myself. At this point though, I'm gonna head to the hotel, and then I'm gonna get ready for the flight tomorrow, which will be a nice, easy, direct one back home to Seattle.
As prices in the city center for hotels were a bit higher, I found a place that was both more affordable and closer to the airport, so I took the train to get there, although it wasn't exactly right outside of the station.
So I found myself in this cute little town called Neufahrn, and I'm not exactly sure if I know where I'm going, because I'm trying to find a hotel that's like a town over. So, worst case scenario, it's just gonna be a long walk.
A tad strange to walk through this town in the dark of night, but there at least was a pleasant park path, and eventually I found my way to the McDreams Hotel.
So this hotel's run a little differently because there's no front desk. It's all done on phone for checking in, and now it's time for me to go ahead and get inside and get to my room.
While it was strange to not have someone at a desk on entry, the place still has secured access, and the room itself is very clean, as it seems to be a fairly new place, even if it is a bit basic. Regardless though, it made for a nice easy rest for the journey home the following morning.
To be honest, I kind of like McDreams Hotel. I wouldn't mind staying here again in a future visit, as the rooms are clean, it was a fairly new building, and yeah, it's basic, but did a great job of giving a place to rest for the night. And now that it's morning, it's time to go ahead and make that journey home.
It was a wet stroll back through town to the train station, but a pleasant one with the park to walk through, and the nice little town center where the train station was located. In all the years I've traveled internationally, this would be my first time flying through the same airport in another country twice in the same year on separate trips, since Erica and I flew through here both ways in the summer. But I loved getting to see it in the winter, as it turns out they have their own Christmas market to enjoy. Like the larger city market, there were stalls for merchandise, food and beverages, including that delightful glühwein. Plus they had a small ice skating rink as well.
Given that it's earlier in the morning, there's not a whole lot that's open here, but it's really neat that they have this inside of the airport area, especially for those who might have a long layover here that might not be long enough to really justify getting into Munich proper. So if you are connecting through Munich on a future trip and it's around the holiday season, you might come on out and check out their Christmas market. Looks like a great way to spend some time between flights.
That being said, the time was drawing near for my flight to get back home. There was a bit of a holdup approaching the gates, as they had a secondary passport check even after going through passport control and security before, and this caused some incredibly long lines. Luckily I'd gotten there early enough for the initial stages of boarding. This was also a bit of a special flight, because not only was it direct to Seattle, it was also my first ever flight on an Airbus A350, the largest of the European plane makers' twin-engine widebodies, which features many advancements to improve the in-flight experience for passengers, like the 787 Dreamliner from Boeing. So the aviation nerd in me was happy to get to try it out. And thanks to the number of open seats, the middle seat next to me was empty, making for an even more comfortable flight home. We did have a bit of a delay though, due to that extended passport control line, as some passengers were still not on board yet. So they were in a race to get to the plane before their bags were located and removed, meaning Lufthansa might have given a few folks the Larson treatment. Eventually though, we did get underway for my first ever A350-900 flight. The first couple hours were pretty turbulent, but things did calm down as we got further north. And boy did we go far north, as it was really dark outside in the middle of the afternoon, but there was just enough light to still catch some glimpses of Greenland down below. And as we flew over Baffin Bay, you could see large sheets of ice covering the water between Greenland and Canada, with a few cracks that exposed it. And as we finished our crossing, it started to get lighter outside, making it even easier to see the snowdrifts of northern Canada. A few hours later, we began to see rougher terrains as we approached the mountains of British Columbia, flying over the likes of Kamloops and Kelowna toward Vancouver, then veering more to the south into Washington. What I really loved about our routing was that we got to enjoy one of the best views I've had of Washington's northernmost volcano, Mount Baker. And as our arrival got closer, there was a bit of a funny moment where I could see the Everett widebody factory of Boeing, where they build the 777, while right on their main competitor's answer to that model. It became apparent that we were landing in Seattle from the north, as those sitting on the right side like myself could see the Olympic Mountains to the west, parts of I-5 down below, and the Space Needle as we flew over downtown. In all, this first flight on the A350 was quite comfortable, and I really enjoyed the sights along the way. And as happy as I was that we made it back safely, I might have taken a little extra time on the International Arrivals Bridge from the South Satellite, because while my timing didn't work out when I flew direct from London a couple years ago, this time there were a couple planes passing underneath, so I knew I had to nerd out for a moment. After satisfying my inner av geek, the time came to head through customs, grab my check bag, and catch the light rail back to downtown. It might have been necessary to cut down on my travels to get through the last year of Bellevue College, but this was an absolutely worthwhile quick escape for a break. And a wonderful time with friends exploring some historic cities, along with one of the best theme parks on the European continent. Plus a bonus side journey that offered a chance to check out a popular Christmas market, and getting to take my first flight on a new model of aircraft was a nice little cherry on top. If you'd like to see this trip through the eyes of Allison and Nate, their respective YouTube channels of Inverted Creative Studio and Coast Your Focus also feature vlogs of this adventure, and you can find links to them in the description for this video, as well as the first two of the series. That way you can get even more perspective of our experience wandering through Switzerland and Europa Park, and an even better sense of what an excellent time this weekend was with a fantastic crew. A special thank you goes to Allison and Mullet for the invitation to join them on this quick European escape. It might have felt like it ended in the blink of an eye, but it was an excellent break from the fall quarter and a nice way to make up for missing the previous year's adventure. And while it's hard to say for sure when another quick adventure like this could happen, this one will always be among my favorite shorter trips I've ever been on. I'd also like to thank you for joining me on this look back at our quick visit to Europe. I really hope you enjoyed it and that you'll come back for more, as while this hiatus does go on for a while, it eventually does come to an end, with a chance to join the Buzz Bars once again, exploring new destinations, while also returning to some favorite parks. And we'll dive into that adventure next time on Coasting with Culture. Thank you for watching this video from Coasting with Culture. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click on the subscribe button to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on various social media channels at CoastWCulture for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.